Good day everyone, my name is Paul Davids and today I'll try to help you to get the most out of that pentatonic scale. Pentatonic scale! Okay, we all know the pentatonics are... no, not that one. The pentatonic scale is a great scale. From pros to beginners, we all use them. So with the 5-step roadmap I've created, I'm sure everyone can get to know the pentatonics in a musical way instead of just rambling them up and down the neck. So let's get going. Tip number 1, and this one is pretty straightforward. They all are, by the way, but this one is know the root notes. So the root note is the note it all resolves around and revolves around and resolves to. It's a note that feels like home. So knowing that note really makes all the difference. Sometimes there's 2 or even 3 in one box. So for this particular video we're sticking to the key of A minor. So we're approaching each box via the A note. So let's take a look at box 1 for example, which is played like this. Let me turn on camera 2. Boom, here we go. Hi camera 2. It's 5, 8. So A and C. 5, 7, D and E, and 5 and 7, G and A again. Then we continue the same notes, 5, 7, 5, 8, and 5, 8. Box 1, I have them on screen as well. But now just play the root notes, 3, 4. Sounds great, just playing the root notes. It's an amazing song. No, it's not. You just have to know the notes. You have to know the notes are at that point of that particular box. If you don't know that, there's absolutely no use in learning a new shape or a new box. So the boxes, there are 5 pentatonic shapes on the neck of the guitar. But essentially they're all the same. They consist of the same 5 notes in the same order. They even sound the same, but the only thing that differs is the way we have to play them in different positions on the neck. And there lies the power, but also the weakness. Because what I've seen so many times, over and over again, by students who try to master the pentatonics is that they learn the 5 shapes without knowing what they mean, what they are playing. Playing them up and down, moving to the next figure, learning the shapes by heart, but in the end forgetting them because they learned the boxes without having an inkling of the musical context of it. It's like learning a bunch of words without learning the definition. And now off to tip number 2, which is play around the roots. Now the next thing you want to do is familiarize yourself with those root notes. Let them sink in, let your brain get used to those root notes at those places by playing around these notes and constantly getting back to the roots. This way you really get to understand that these notes are the fundamental notes, the target notes, the most fundamental note of the scale. Oh, and don't start with 5 patterns all at once. Start with just 1 and build it up. So, tip 2 into practice. And why not play box 2 with tip 2? Here we go. 4. So these 5 boxes don't come out of nowhere. Some use the caged system to determine each box and connect it to a chord. I made a whole video about caged, so check it out if you haven't seen it. It's linked in the description. So for instance, box 1 can be linked to the E minor chord shape. You can easily check that by putting a capo or capo on fret 5. And if I would now play an E minor chord, I can still play the same shape. So now we can check the other boxes too. Box 2 would be the D minor shape from this note, the root.
check it by putting a capo or capo on fret 7 and play a D minor chord. Now we can play the same. Box 3. And now we've got a problem with gauge and minor chords. And why this tends to work better for major chords. I would call this the C minor shape, playing from fret 12 on the A string. But if we put a capo on fret 9, I don't think a lot of us play this chord. So it's not really applicable to box 3. And box 4 is obviously, the capo doesn't go as high, the A minor shape. Also to be seen over here. A minor is the same shape. And the last one is a bit of a problem again. It's the G minor shape. It's basically the same problem we run into box 3, the C minor shape. So let's transpose the box from fret 15 down to fret 5, a little easier. So this would be a G minor, 5, 3 and 2. So if you put a capo on fret 2, a G minor chord will be played like this. But we can't play the B string. So that's the problem. So the box is 3, 5, 3, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. G minor box.
Off to tip number 3. Play up and down. Okay, so we established the root notes. We feel it. We automatically get back to these notes if we want to resolve our licks. And before we continue, I have to say this for my own conscience. It's my personal belief that
I personally believe
a lot of people tend to learn the 5 shapes too early. I'd rather see people just rip it on just 2 shapes and find their way perfectly in just those 2 boxes than artificially try to move around the entire fretboard. For learning purposes it's perfect, but not so much if you try to make it work. Thankfully, these tips also apply to those who just want to expand their knowledge of the pentatonics, so to 2 or 3 or 4 or in the end even 5 shapes. Let's move on. Now we need to expand from the root notes to as high or as low as possible within that box. Now we really expand our knowledge of the patterns. We make them bigger and bigger. So, number 3 in practice, here we go. And of course, box number 3, A minor. So this is the root notes, and this is the root notes. 2 beautiful A notes. Here we go, 3, 4. Etc., etc. Up and down from the highest to the lowest note. Off to tip number 4. Jump from position to position. Now we nailed the positions and we get them. We need to be able to effortlessly jump from one to the other. Connect them with slides, with licks, whatever. Make it sound as fluent as possible. So this lick, for example. It would be pretty cool to instantly play this idea in the 5 positions. That would be a huge asset to your playing because you're able to express yourself in every position on the neck. So, in 5 positions, 2. Etc.
So now I can hear you wondering, this is just a minor scale. What about the major shapes? Well, it works the same way. And the major shapes are identical. It's just the way you look at it. The E minor shape, for example, is the same as the G major shape. So for this example, that would be A minor is the same as C major. So if you want to use the shape to its full potential, it's very important to actually see the shapes from the root instead of thinking about the relative major or minor. So use these tips as well for the major shapes. But they will be easier because the shapes themselves are just the same. So link them together and let them sink in.
Now tip number 5, the master tip of this pentatonic, Penta 5. Play freely, diagonally. And for the last step of this pentatonic mini lesson, we're taking all the freedom to play diagonally across the entire neck without feeling limited by the borders of the boxes. It's time to let them go. There are no boxes. They were just a tool to let you see the bigger picture, but now it's time to erase the lines between them and see the scale present itself on the entire neck. Let's try that. 3, 4, and... The cool thing is that all these shapes have their own little licks, melodies and lines hidden somewhere in that shape, so a lot of stuff to do. Bye. I want to add a few things to this video, to the 5 points and why I've constructed it like this. A lot of time you hear people talk about learning a shape and then just move it up or down the fretboard, whatever key you're playing in. Well, I found that it isn't that easy. If you can play the shape in A minor perfectly, it doesn't mean you can play as freely in A minor as in E flat minor, for example. And that is because you remember the positions instead of the notes. So that's why point 1 and 2 of this video are so massively important. And I dare you to just close your eyes, forget about the position, but think about the function. So 1, flat 3, 4, 5 and flat 7 instead of fret 7 and fret 5 and fret 8 and fret 5, for example. Pattern is more important. That way you really learn the shape and the meaning of the notes instead of the fret numbers. And the shapes will be much easier to transpose up or down the neck, believe me. So another note, in this video, as far as examples go, I had to put a lot of effort in trying to just stick to the minor pentatonic scale. The pentatonics is such a great scale to use as a canvas, a blank canvas, to add colors to. And eventually it all goes automatically. Add some blue notes, add some notes from Dorian or Mixolydian scale or some chromatics, etc, etc. So that's why it's such an important scale. And if you got the fundamentals of the scale down, it's easy to add stuff to it. Even better, if you also understand the structure and the functions, it will all be so much easier. So, although these 5 tips are presented in a short and powerful manner for the sake of the pace of this video, the whole idea behind it is that it teaches you and serves you the scale in what I think is the best way to really master the pentatonic in a sustainable, long-term way that will help you get further on the instrument and will be of huge value to anyone. I believe that personally. I personally believe that, yes. So this is Paul. Enjoy. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye. What are you looking at?